Anybody that knows me knows I wear a ball cap about 90% of the time. Today, I got my tinfoil hat on. You definitely need it these days. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I go off of common sense. And there's just some things happening in this world that, you see an incident on TV, let's say a helicopter and a plane crash, fly together. To most people, they would think, oh, how tragic. It was an accident. No. Black Hawk helicopters, particularly Black Hawk helicopters that carry military dignitaries, have special equipment on them that no other helicopter has on it. The reason being, when you got generals flying in aircraft and you got enemies that are inside your country, that aircraft could become a target. Whether it be somebody that wants to get their hand on a general, for blackmail or torture, influence, so on and so forth. So you got to know something about terrorism. I fought terrorists from 1982 to 2005. Terrorist. In 2005, I came home from the military and I tried to tell people, well, let me back up. They tried to get me to stay. And I knew if I stayed, I was going to have to go back overseas again, leave my family again. And I'm fighting people who never really did anything against me, personally. And the more I read in the news, the more questions I have, and the more questions I have, the more like a conspiracy theorist I have, and it's only because I got common sense. That Black Hawk has sophisticated radar on it. It's got several different types of radar on it that can pick up all kind of aircraft. It's got alarms on it that will go off if you're flying too low or too high, or you're on a collision path with another aircraft. Now that particular aircraft, that particular Black Hawk, is supposed to have 2 crew chiefs on it. We've been told there was only one. Where was the other one? Were we understaffed because of all the recruiting failures, people getting kicked out because of vax mandates, and people not wanting to join and be part of a woke military? I mean, to be honest with you, that's why I retired when I did. I saw changes in 2005 I did not like. I got tired of fighting enemies that I was told lived in caves, when really they walked the halls of Congress. It's time for me to rant. I'm a veteran. And when I came home in 2005, I tried to tell people what was going on. I tried to tell them what I learned in my 23 years military career. And I tried to tell people, we ain't got to go overseas and fight enemies when they've been using our immigration laws and they live and work amongst us. Let me say that again and let it sink in. We don't have to go overseas and fight enemies when they live and work amongst us. And one of the reasons why I voted for Trump was his promise to get these people out of our country. And so far, promise. And you see why, you see they're bucking against him. They've labeled parents who speak out at school board meetings as terrorists. And really, I thought by Trump winning the election, everything was going to be better. But I knew there was going to be some pushback. And there will be some pushback until he gets all the dirty people out of government. And we're not just talking about the federal government. We're talking about the state governments, the state agencies, the federal agencies, school boards, even the water board. Water board. If you go back and read the Bible, God wants his people to work the land he gave them. I grew up on well water. The only time I ever drank city water was when I was at school. And there was a distinct difference in the taste of water. And we're talking about the late 70s, early 80s. It's gotten worse. I don't trust bottled water either. Several years ago, about 25 years ago, somebody did an undercover of a bottling plant water that boasted that it was natural spring water. And they were filling the bottles with regular tap water. You remember that? God gave you water. It falls in rain. The well I grew up on served 2 houses. And it never went dry. On the hottest July day in South Carolina, you could turn that tap on and that water was just as cold and refreshing as could be. And when we used that well water on our garden to irrigate our garden, water our garden, even the green beans tasted greener. We need to get back to the basics in this country. We need a new revival in this country, not just in religion, but in politics, in education, and other things. Stop, Daisy. Come here. He when he's wanting to be held, he'll mess with me. Come here. Come here. Come here. I don't want to lose my tinfoil hat. If I lose my tinfoil hat, I might get some Democrat on me. Look. I guess I need to make you a little tinfoil hat too, because I don't want you damaged. You get some brain damage, get some of that liberal brain damage. You know, and then you look at some of the passengers on the plane of the names they released. And you look those names up and you find out they're investment bankers. How many investment bankers have offed themselves over the past, say, 2 years? Quite a few of them. You don't have to be a conspiracy theorist to have common sense and do a little research and find out what the news ain't telling you. Donna Livingston is a Comcast. Comcast is an NBC affiliate. See? It ain't never just, I'm a poor man. I grew up on a cotton mill hill in rural South Carolina. The one thing God gave me that man can't take away from me is common sense. It's not a conspiracy theorist. When I came home in 2005 and I told people, there's no such thing as all these mysterious illnesses. 8 years ago, Donald Trump told us that COVID comes from Wuhan lab in China. And everybody in Congress and on the other side laughed at him, called us all nuts and everything. Well, just this week, the CIA says, COVID came from Wuhan lab in China. 8 years later. Meanwhile, in that 8 years, they mandated vaccinations and boosters and fired you from your jobs, kicked people out of the military if you refused based upon religious grounds. That's unconstitutional. Now we got lawsuits back and forth, and meanwhile, we got things like hurricanes and stuff tearing up North Carolina, fires. How come, let me make sure my hat's on. I'm going to ask this question. I'm going to tell you something. If you believe that California is the only state in the union that can spontaneously combust from climate change, well, you might be a libtard conspiracy theorist. Let me say that again. If you believe California is the only state out of 50, we got the lower 48 and Hawaii and Alaska. If we're in climate change, how come we never had a major forest fire in Alaska? How come Arkansas ain't burned off the face of the earth? How come New York ain't burning down? How come Germany ain't burning? Think. Use your brain. See through the fog of war, they call it. The fog of war in the military terms is once the first shot is fired, the plan goes out of it, and you don't know what's going to happen after that. And it's called the fog of war because you don't know. You can't see what's going to happen. And pretty much down on the line where American troops are, it ain't whether you're fighting for your country or fighting for freedom or fighting to preserve the Constitution of the United States, or you're fighting for survival. There are no winners and no losers in any war. Let me say that again. You don't win wars and you don't lose wars. Either you survive wars or you don't. If you put on the full armor of God, you don't need a tinfoil hat. You put it all in God's hands, you don't need a tinfoil hat. You don't need common sense. You don't need to worry about nothing that's happening. If something happens to you and you're in God's hands, you go to the other side. You go to greener pastures. You go to a mansion in the sky. You get streets of gold. You get a harp and a crown. And you get everlasting life. At least that's what I believe. A lot of times we try to live a heavenly life in an earthly body, and we get the two confused. I came home from, and I tried to tell people, I was called all things. We're fighting the wrong people. We need to vote Congress out, not in. I was called crazy, lunatic, conspiracy theorist. And I'm like, I'm just telling you what I learned in the military. Are you listening? You asked me a question. You wanted to know what I did in the military. I'm telling you. Are you listening? No, they didn't listen. Nobody listened until Trump started saying the same thing. Not only me, but other veterans like me who served in the 80s and 90s tried to tell people. They would ask and want to know. And then the minute you tell them, they'd go, well, that sounds ridiculous. That's crazy talk. They're going to put you in an insane asylum for talking like that. Dave, shut up. They didn't want to hear it. Are you listening now? Trump vindicated me. Now people think I can predict the future because just 5 years ago I told somebody what was going to happen, and it happened. And just the other day he called me and goes, hey Dave, am I going to win the lottery? I said, no, you're going to lose more than you win. They let you win just enough in the lottery to keep you coming back buying tickets. It's one of them devil's toys. It's just one of them distractions they gave you to keep you from paying attention to what they were doing. Funny how the lawmakers, gambling, other than Vegas and Jersey, gambling in America was illegal. Now it's perfectly okay. You can do it from your own home. Ain't even got to leave the door. Ain't even got to get dressed. I don't have all the answers. All I got is my Bible and my Lord, my music, and my dog. I'm a humble man. I keep it that way. But I'm a realist. We're all going to die someday. It don't matter how we die. You just want to die with the right intentions. I'd rather die a humble man and receive riches on the other side than be a rich man here and corrupt. Nearly every rich person in America is corrupt in one way or the other. Up to and including probably Donald Trump somehow. I don't care. For the first time in America in 61 years that I can testify to, I feel like the American people has a voice that somebody is listening to. You see all these movie stars and music entertainers, including some country music entertainers, they're doing more for California fires than they did for hurricane victims in Tennessee. And a lot of them record in Nashville, Tennessee. Yeah, I guess they don't have any fans in North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and Tennessee, but they're going to help their buddies out there in LA, but that's fine. That's fine. Country folks got long memories. And we kind of, we have a different code over here in Appalachia. We don't resort to violence. We just won't buy your product when you offend us. How do you hurt a rich man? It's very simple. You hit him where it counts, or where it hurts most. The bank account. Everybody's up in arms over China, tariffs on China. Well, is China the only place that makes flip-flops, Crocs, sunglasses? No. I remember when China was an enemy, and they've always been an enemy, whether it be a military enemy, a business enemy, an economy enemy, intellectual property enemy. Do you know what intellectual property is? That's where, say, an American invents something, and everybody buys it. It goes big. China takes it, and they reverse engineer it, and they put out a cheaper model of it. Kind of undermines the American businessman. And nothing ever happens to that. Nobody ever sued China over stealing a patent. Nobody. If you go back, if you're my age, and you go back to like your 7th grade government classes, in the 7th grade, I wrote a term paper. Senator Howard Baker was the Speaker of the House when I was in 7th grade. And I wrote him a letter, and I told him I was doing research for my 7th grade civics class. And he sent me all kind of stuff from the Library of Congress. I still have that stuff. And I was impressed because I think he was under Reagan's first term, I think. I'd have to go back and look. Might have been Carter administration. Oh, there's all kind of stuff. There's all, if you know where to look, here's the thing. This is what I find out on social media a lot. People ask kind of dumb questions. And I usually go, well, your computer, why are you asking me? Your computer came with a search bar just like mine did. Look it up. If it's a viral video, people will look it up. If it's a new gambling site, people will look it up. If it's a porn star they heard about, they'll look it up. But when it comes to their rights, they won't look it up. When it comes to laws, they won't look it up. The first year I was home, this is going to blow your mind right here. The first year I was home, they sent me a tax notice, a property tax. I mean, I hadn't even been home 2 months yet, and I got my tax notice. And I owed property taxes in South Carolina on a Ford Explorer that I had bought and paid for in Oregon. It was only like $69. So I go to the tax office and I go, look, that car's not even tagged in South Carolina. Why do I have to pay South Carolina taxes on a car I bought and paid for? And I own the title. It's a clear title. Well, because it's been driven on South Carolina roads. I go, okay. but I'm a disabled veteran. Here's my letter of tax exemption. I had to do that 3 times. They even, at one point, they even suspended my driver's license. So I got to looking up laws, and I found an 1867 law in South Carolina, still on the books, that said I could trade goods and services in lieu of paying taxes. So there was a big pothole at the end of my driveway on a county road, and I had been trying to get the county to come out and fix. I was always given the same excuse: oh, there's no asphalt to fix it. So I set up a tripod, my cell phone, and I went and bought 12 bags of asphalt, heated it up in an old cast iron kettle, and filled myself filling in that hole, and then I sent the county a bill. Oh, the tax register, he called me. He said, "What's this?" I said, "I'll be in your office here in a few minutes." And I go in there, and he was retired Air Force. Had his "I love me" wall behind him. He said, "What's this all about?" I said, "It is what it is." He said, I can't accept